You good? All right. Here we go. Speed. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Family Trips with the Myers Brothers. I'm Seth Myers. Oh, wait a second. No, wait. I'm not Seth Myers. I'm Michael Schweisheimer. So that means it must be time for the Mission Story Slam podcast, which is brought to you by PWP Video and hosted by me, Josh Myers. Crap. No. So I actually really am Michael Schweisheimer, the executive producer of PWP Video, Mission Story Slam, and I'm also someone who once rented an RV. It was at the height of the pandemic, and Robin and I drove to Wisconsin to visit my parents, camping all our way home from there. But listen, I suggest that you book an RV right now to drive across the country to Philadelphia for the 12th edition of Mission Story Slam. We are booked for Tuesday evening, June 10th at National Mechanics. The theme will be The Time Is Now. Time is also now to grab your tickets at missionstoryslam.org because I'm happy to report that over 2 months out and with very little pushing, tickets have been selling at a rapid clip. So don't get stuck in your camper van on 3rd Street. Make sure you can get in the door. I do have a feeling this edition will sell out. So you might be asking yourself, what's with all the family trips and RV references? Well, this past November at Mission Story Slam 11, it was the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And because family trips for the holiday, we had a number of our storytellers who stayed home instead of sharing the illnesses they picked up while traveling. That is another reason I really love our Mission Story Slam community. As sharing a group as we aren't dumb enough to share our illnesses. But anyway, we turned to our still healthy community in the room to ask for extra volunteers. One table was populated by a large portion of the Weinstein family, including Judy, Ken, and their youngest Noah, and his partner Pooja. I can report that they were all chickens, except Ken, who did step up to share this gem.
I'm really in awe of the storytellers that we've already heard tonight, but I have never given a kidney up. I have never been a single father. I haven't bought a condom in many years. Just got to tell you. But I have been on an RV vacation with my family. And that's what my story is about tonight. So for those of you who know the Weinsteins, you know that my wife Judy, who's here with us tonight, plans all of our vacations. And she does a wonderful job. I am a homebody. I love to stay at home. I enjoy being at home with my family. And Judy likes to travel. And I like Judy, so I travel with her. But I had this one thing I wanted to do. I took a trip when I was 12 years old with my family, and it was an RV vacation. We got into this giant 35-foot RV and drove around to national parks. And I said to Judy, that's what I want to do with my family. And she said, no way. And again, if you know Judy, she usually, when she says no way, it's no way. She thought about it overnight, and she said to me the next morning, if you plan this vacation A to Z, I'm in. And so I had never planned a vacation A to Z before. And I sat down at the table, I went online, I figured out our route, I figured out what RV we're going to rent, and made it all happen. Felt really good about myself. Again, if you know the Weinsteins, you know we have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and they got a lot of energy. And the thought, this is why Judy said no originally, because the thought of being in an RV with these 3 kids for 10 days is more than you can take. But anyway, we went out, we headed out, we started in Las Vegas. We rented one of those rooms at a casino for $15 a night. And Judy showed up and was like, having second thoughts, which I understand. But we rented our RV, left from Las Vegas. First stop was Walmart, so we can fill up the RV with food. The next stop was Bryce National Park. Wonderful, right? But I had never driven an RV before. And like I said, this was large, and it was getting dark out. And there was a rule that you had to go through the tunnel heading to Bryce by a certain time because they closed the tunnel. So we are booking it. And I'm moving. We're doing 75, 80 miles an hour. I got to get through that tunnel. Otherwise, we are a day behind and I'm screwed. So we head, and it's pitch black, and we get to Bryce, and we stop and we camp. And we do all the fun things you do, right, in national parks. We go hiking, we make camp, and we serve breakfast in the morning, just have a great time. The next day, we're heading out of Bryce in broad daylight. I had no idea. The road was like this wide, and it went straight down. I had no idea I was driving a giant RV along this road, and I was this far from the edges. It was unreal. So that was the first interesting thing. I'm not so sure I could have done that in the daylight originally, but it worked. So we headed out to our next stop. We went to Mesa Verde. We went to Moab in Utah. We went to Painted Desert. We had just a great time, and it was really a vacation that brought our family together. One of the things I learned about my kids in this vacation is they love shit. I'm not just saying shit. I mean, they really love shit because we would pull up at a campsite and we didn't have to beg them to get out and do stuff. They would jump out because they wanted to hook up the utilities. See, we raised 3 tech kids, and they just fell in love with hooking up the electric, hooking up the sewer line, hooking up the water line. And Judy and I are thinking, thank God. I've learned to appreciate my kids at this vacation, I got to tell you that. A few other things came out during this vacation. My oldest son, Ari, who is now 30, this is 15 years ago, he decided, because it was sort of a junky RV, he decided he was going to put chocolates on our pillows every night to make this a little more fancy, to feel really good. But joking aside, we just had some wonderful experiences, wonderful nights. Our kids, 2 of our 3 kids had just gone back from Windsor Mountain Camp in New Hampshire. And so every night we sat around a campfire and we did shooting stars, which is something you do at camp. We talked about our highs and lows of the day. And it was just beautiful because highs and lows, you talk about what somebody else did for you that day. I'm going to tear up. To hear one of your kids say to another kid, you made my day. The high of my day was when you complimented me for this. Anyway, we finished the trip. One of the other things I forgot to mention is that I kept a diary. I never kept a diary before, but I wish I had it with me tonight. But I kept a diary, wrote down all these memories, wrote down what we talked about each night during highs and lows and shooting stars. And if you ever want to appreciate your family, put them in an RV and go 10 days, and you will appreciate it.
So now, typically on this podcast, you would expect that I would introduce just Ken Weinstein, but this today is a very special episode because today I'm joined by the entire Weinstein clan. I'm happy to introduce Ken, Judy, Ari, Ellie, and Noah. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Hi.
Can I just have each of you introduce yourselves really fast so we have a snowball's chance of knowing whose voice is whose? Why don't we start with Ellie since you were just talking?
I'm Michael. No, I'm just kidding. Look, if you could sit now, I'm Ellie, the middle child and my parents' favorite.
Of course, you would say so. What, Ari? Would you agree with that statement?
I don't know how to respond to that. My name's Ari, and I am the oldest child. Um, that's all I have to say at this time.
No comment otherwise. All right. What about you, Noah?
Hey, I am Noah. I'm the youngest, looking very cute in all these photos.
So maybe you're the favorite.
What
Judy?
happened?
Probably.
Oh, God. All the love in the room is
I'm
amazing.
Judy. I am the mom of these three fantastic humans, and every single one of them is my favorite.
Just
Well
don't
done.
ask who's in her phone as her favorite daughter. It's okay.
And Ken?
I am Ken, and I'm the proud father of three wonderful kids, and I love my wife.
So I want to start out, Ari and Ellie. You guys weren't there that night. So I'm kind of curious, like, how quickly did your father actually turn around and share this story when it came out on YouTube?
Pretty quickly, just don't ask how long it took me to watch the video.
Well, I don't know what the timing was, but I was in LA and my parents were in LA visiting Noah, and we were just sort of showing each other videos and of things we were working on. So it was an appropriate venue for us to check it out.
Ken, I really think you talked to me afterwards and you seemed to really believe that you sort of blew it when you came so close to crying on the stage. But I mean, the audience, as you can hear, they gave you this giant awe. And I don't know if getting that choked up on stage is a winning a story slam strategy, but you definitely had everyone in the room on your side. Like, do you still think you blew it with that moment?
I certainly didn't plan it. It certainly wasn't a strategy. It's something that comes out way too often when I talk about my family, and it came out that night.
Were you guys getting choked up when he was up there getting all verklempt like that? No?
It was hard not to get choked up watching Ken get choked up talking about how beautiful parts of our family trip was. Yes.
Yeah.
I got choked up.
No, were you? What was
Yeah,
your
it's
reaction, or were you
very
just used to your dad?
Yeah, it was a very sweet moment, and I was getting choked up just looking at these photos. Just today, I was refreshing on all the photos, and I was like, oh my God, what a sweet, wonderful time it was, and how special it was to have these photos and have these memories with everyone.
What around what year was this trip? Like, I'm curious how old you guys were.
It was 2009. The
So how old were
Phillies
you,
had
Noah?
just won the World Series.
That was in
I think
2008.
that's true, actually.
Wait,
I
really? I
was
would have think
12?
they would have won in October. You did an October RV trip?
Yeah,
No, they won in
September.
October.
So
October. No, they won in October '08. We went on the trip in August '09.
Okay,
they did
thank you.
get back to the playoffs in '09. I don't remember how far they got. So
Mm.
they were probably in the playoffs because I know this trip at least went until September 1st, 2009, based on the fact that I was looking at the photos of it 30 minutes ago.
But this, to answer your question, Michael, this trip happened 15 years ago, so that
Yeah.
would have made Ari 15 years old. That would have made Ellie 12 years old.
Look who remembers my
And
birthday.
that would have made Noah 8 years old.
That's a pretty cool, actually, group of ages. So I was wondering, like, how young Noah might have been in terms of like how much of this he's remembered and how much of it stuck with you. But I feel like 8 is where you can kind of start actually remembering things into adulthood, somewhere around there.
Definitely have a few memories of the trip, and I was looking at the photos and like, oh, I remember here Ellie and I were singing this song, or some weird stuff like that, just kind of
Wow.
strangely in my brain.
So, all right, Ari, what is do you have like a big memory from the trip?
One thing that I think started on this trip and continued for years thereafter was we were in this RV, and there were 5 of us in the RV, and it was kind of good that we did that trip when we were at those ages, because I think fitting 5 of us into the RV of this size was something that we could have only done at that time. It was not a big amount of space for 5 people, and there's a certain roughness of driving across the country and or not across the country, but across the area that we're in, and not having a real shower, and it was an intense experience. So we liked to find ways of pretending that we were living in luxury, and the way that we did that was we had some chocolates at one point, and Ellie started putting them on the pillows of every person's bed or cot or whatever we were able to sleep on, and we would pretend like we were staying in some fancy resort where someone was placing chocolate on the pillows, and we had weird ways of doing it where someone would walk in and Ellie would say, "Hey, like, look over there," and then be like, "Oh my God, look how fancy this place is, they put chocolate on the pillows." It was pretty fun.
So, to the lack of reliability of memory, I'm pretty sure when Ken told the story, he said that actually you were the one who put the chocolates on the pillow, Ari.
He was wrong, and I'm pretty sure it was me, but Ari was the one vocally really loving it the whole time.
I think
It was definitely a thing
idea.
between the two.
I think it was my idea, and Ellie was the one who did it. I think there's something in between.
I think you gave me the chocolate some nights to put on the pillow. I
think that's right. I think that's right.
I will say. And also,
I think I gave you the chocolate. Yeah.
I don't think I ate very much chocolate back then.
Michael, let me just say that if I had to cover this disagreement on who actually did it, it would have taken a majority of my talk. Hence why I just assigned it to Ari.
Oh, so it was just efficiency.
Yes.
Is what it was. I see.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Sometimes you
taking
gotta
it
make
for the
hard
oldest
choices.
child. Taking it for the oldest child. Efficiency. Yep, that's how it always goes. Okay, goodbye.
But my memory is that it was mostly a thing between Ellie and Ari. That I don't remember getting chocolate on my pillow. Not that I'm sour about that, but I do remember.
No. I don't feel bad. I'm pretty sure there was a room in the back of this RV, and I don't think we were really allowed in it as much. And I think...
Now that we're talking about it, I sort of think that maybe something that happened was, like, we didn't have very many chocolates, and maybe we just had one chocolate that Ellie would, like, put on my pillow every night. And then
I think that sounds right.
Okay, that's awesome. It's like one Hershey's Kiss getting spread around the whole family.
But Michael, to this day, whenever we go to a hotel and they put chocolates on the pillow, we take pictures and send it to all the kids.
We got some fancy chocolate. We got some fancy chocolate on our pillow at a couple of the hotels we stayed at in the Canary Islands. And we did take pictures and we did send them to everybody.
Nice. Excellent. No, I was trying to ask before we got sidetracked on pillow chocolate and allergies. You were flipping through a bunch of photos from earlier. Were there specific memories that were either came back for you, or were there ones that you already had that are your favorite from this trip?
Again, I loved my favorite photos that I was looking through were the ones of like all of us, or like mom would be behind the 4 other of us and would just take a really cute picture of all of us just kind of doing our own thing. There's one photo of us all throwing rocks, and it's such a funny thing because Dad has this big rock in his hand he's about to throw, and I was picking one up, and it's just like, we were just like, I don't know, we were in a place with many rocks, so what are we going to do? We're going to throw rocks, of course. I was 8, like, so.
I mean, yeah. What else do you do with a bunch of rocks?
What I also realized about this trip is this was the start of me being interested in photography.
Ah.
Which I don't really do photography anymore, but I had a camera on that trip because I think it was a few months before my B'nai Mitzvah, and I got a camera. And so I think I was just figuring out how to use a real camera for the first time. And so I have all of these gorgeous photos. And so I credit that.
So like actually with film or a digital camera?
No, it was digital. It was, a really high-end 10 megapixel, whatever, Canon something.
So this trip, though, started you up, it got you interested in photography because you were playing with the camera and you had these beautiful places to point it at, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Judy, what are some of the things that stick out to you from the trip besides the way that Ken tells it?
It's hard to pick, but I was super unexcited about this trip. I was very
Kind of got that from his story, yeah.
I was very worried about all of us being in such a small enclosed space for this long. But I knew it was going to be okay when we pulled into our first stop and all the kids rushed out to take care of all the utilities. And they did that throughout the entire trip. And they were having so much fun, and they were getting along remarkably well, each trying to figure out their own particular utility that they were working on. And that really surprised me from the start, because as the adults on the trip, I thought we were going to be taking care of all of it. And I was not only not looking forward to it, I just, it wasn't something that I was excited about. I mean,
Sewage brings people together.
Sewage on this trip clearly brought them all together. So that was one thing. The second thing that really strikes me was that Noah had gone to the same sleepaway camp that Ari went to that summer for a few weeks, and they came home with these phenomenal group activities that Ken talked about a little bit in
the
his
shooting stars thing.
The shooting stars, and sending shooting stars, sitting around the campfire, sending shooting stars. I want to send Ellie a shooting star for putting chocolate on my pillow, and I want to send, Ken a shooting star for bringing the marshmallows out tonight. And just all of the things that each one of us did that meant something was just a really beautiful family experience. It was very special. And I really don't like to be wrong. And I'm not wrong all that often, but I was very happy to be wrong about this family vacation.
And I was wondering how worried you were about the fact that Ken did the planning.
Oh, yeah. I have to say, I was a little worried about that. And I think he was really worried about that too, to be fair, to be honest. And so
Gotcha.
He went above and beyond everything and planned every single detail so that it was very smooth.
Hey, Dad, did you ever plan another family trip, or was it one and done?
That was one and done.
Okay.
Yeah. Judy plans very close to 100% of our vacations, partly because she enjoys vacations more than I do, and partly because she's really good at it. And this was my opportunity to shine, because to say Judy was not super excited about this vacation is an understatement. She was downright negative about this and only agreed to it when I offered to do 100% of the planning.
Ken, you said early in your story that this was based on a trip that you had done with your own family.
Yes.
So did this trip exceed, that's when you're going back to your own childhood and trying to either recreate or bring that to your own family, like how'd it go?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty risky to try to recreate a trip. I mean, we did start from scratch. We didn't go to all the same destinations, but I remember it being a moment where my family came together because we had a lot of togetherness. Now, we did it in a car, I think, not an RV. And so we would stay at hotels and motels and places like that.
This is a different story, Ken. The story for the last 15 years has been my family did an RV vacation when I was a child, and I want to do an RV vacation with my family.
I take it back. We did. We rented an RV. Yes. Now I remember. Oh, my God.
You did say it was an RV in the story, but this goes to that whole thing
We
about
did take
stories.
an RV vacation. I reverse what I said previously, and that was memorable. But as you already said, memory is
Obviously, clearly memorable.
something that you lose over time. But I had very positive memories of being in my early teens and going on that vacation.
No one is saying you're senile yet.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
So then, Dad, you and your brothers were older than the three of us were, right?
That's my memory. Yes, I feel like I was 11, somewhere around there. So yes, and I'm the youngest. So yes, my brothers would have been older. I remember very specific things like my middle brother Aaron having very long hair. And we went to a ghost town at one point, and older woman said, "Oh, how nice! 2 boys and a girl." Just very specific things like that. I remember going to Las Vegas and eating lunch at one of the casinos and paying $2.50 for a Coke, which is probably the equivalent of $12 today, and how upset I was over that. So very specific things come out. I remember driving through Death Valley and we couldn't shut the air conditioning off. It just stayed on.
Well, it's better than the reverse, Ken. It could have been the heat.
Well, I remember Ari fixing the air conditioning in our RV.
Yeah.
And we were pretty worried about that. It was stifling hot. And I don't know how you did it, Ari, but you got up there and that was, up there with the kids taking care of the utilities. I mean, Ari just...
That might be above the kids taking care of the sewage is sewage.
Yeah. And I remember, funny that you remember Las Vegas. I remember when we landed in Las Vegas, the air was so dry and we were drinking and all of our lips were chapped. And I just remember we were all feeling parched and we were walking to go to some restaurant and we were like, we need chapstick.
Oh yeah, y'all were obsessed with chapstick. I forgot about that.
No, was so obsessed with chapstick.
Noah and I were just in Las Vegas buying chapstick a couple months ago.
Buying chapstick. We were searching around Vegas to find chapstick not long ago.
Do we all agree that Vegas is not a great place to be?
Vegas sucks. I was in Vegas for 17 days a couple of years ago. And I was recording BattleBots TV show. Terrible. Vegas is not fun. And I was so excited to leave to breathe any air that had moisture in it.
I was in Vegas recently, and a man who I will not name won a presidential election, and it was also terrible. And it was Vegas's fault completely.
Yeah, I've been to Vegas too many times the last year. I've been there twice in the last year, so I don't want to go back.
What did we do in Vegas? Because I remember really liking Vegas, and I don't think I went back until a couple of years ago.
We started the trip in Vegas, and we ended the trip in Vegas because we had to return the RV. And my memory, partly based on the journal that I wrote in, is that Ellie, Ari, and I walked the Strip in 2 different parts. The first half we did upon our arrival, and the second part of the Strip we walked was upon our departure. And it was a good time.
I remember that. That was really fun. That felt...
On the arrival, you stayed back with Noah because you were very tired from the plane trip. And Noah was relatively young at the time. We went to Circus and took in free circus performance there, things like that.
We stayed at Circus, and I think the hotel was $10.
It was very cheap.
Last thing about Vegas is it is the least walkable place ever. It's just like, what I could not walk from the hotel to anywhere.
I remember walking the Strip, Dad. I remember primarily being really excited about the lights and all the action. I was always excited about the lights. But I also remember it feeling like a distinctly grown up place, with all the casinos and the bars and people on the street handing out advertisements for like burlesque shows with like half or fully naked people on them. And I remember being kind of like, oh, this feels kind of weird, but also like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I'm in sort of this adult environment.
And at 15, yeah, that's got to be like, huh, this is interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was so different from the rest of our trip, where we purposely tried to take in nature and spend time, without the lights and everything else going on in Vegas.
Totally.
I have to say, going through the photographs, it was stunningly beautiful the places that we went. I mean, those pictures were gorgeous. The petrified forest and the red canyons and the arches, and it was stunning.
How long was this trip? Like, how long were you on the road?
I think it was a couple days short of 2 weeks.
Okay.
Something like that.
Ari says the RV was small. Ken says the RV was huge. Which was it?
Well, in my talk, I said 35 feet, and I looked back at my notes, and it was actually 30 feet. That was close. It was large. It slept 7 people, and there was only 5 of us.
7 would have been tough.
Wait,
7
how would it have
rough.
slept 7 people?
There's no way it would have slept 7 people.
What do you even mean?
That's what they advertised.
Doesn't make any sense.
I can think
is the idea that in 2 of the beds that we were in, you could fit one additional person in each bed? I mean, it would have been very tight.
Probably.
Wow. Okay.
No, that would come out to 8 people. There were 4 beds. 2 were these tiny little.
Maybe it was if you and your the person in the passenger seat were both asleep at the wheel. Speaking of 5 people, was the 2 in the front seat sleeping?
It is true, though, that we wouldn't have been able to take this trip if the kids were any older, because Noah had Noah was the perfect size for that 5th bed that was not much longer than he was.
Fourth bed.
It was a 4th bed. I had the same size
bed
bed as one of Ellie and Ari, and then they were fighting over the driver's seat bed. They would fight.
I was going to ask, who did get the bed that's over the driver's seat?
Ellie and Ari, I think, would switch off. I don't remember, but I remember them telling me that it wasn't safe for me because I was so young. Maybe I would fall off of it, but I think that was just a ploy so that they would get me out of the running.
Hi, this is Mission Story Slam producer Dave Winston. There is so much more to this story, we had to split it into 2 episodes. Watch for the further adventures of the Weinstein clan coming next week on the Mission Story Slam podcast. And hey, Philly, it's almost time. Mission Story Slam 12, the time is now. Tuesday, June 10th at National Mechanics in Old City. Get your tickets now, we may be selling out. And I mean that in the good way. You can find the ticket link on the homepage of missionstoryslam.org. The Mission Story Slam podcast is hosted by Michael Schweisheimer and produced by yours truly. Edited most frequently by James Robinson, but you can blame this particular episode on me. Mission Story Slam is a production of PWP Video, video with a mission. Find out more at pwpvideo.com and join us next week for part 2 of the Weinstein Family Vacation on the Mission Story Slam podcast.